Hello, my fellow dance friends. I hope you're having an amazing, groovy day. Welcome to the Dance for Love podcast where we talk everything dance. My name is Juliette. I've been dancing for my entire life and I will be your host for today. We'll be talking more specifically about the history of hip hop. Let's start off by saying this. Hip hop is so much more than music or simply a dance style. It's actually an entire cultural movement and it incorporates different elements of art. And so this culture is formed by four main elements, and these elements act like a foundation to this culture. We name those the four main pillars of hip hop, and these pillars are: the first one is DJing, which is also called turntablism. The second one is MCing, which can be named rapping. The third one is b-boying, aka breaking. And finally, we have the visual art, just like graffiti. So, hip-hop is a subculture and it comes straight out of the Bronx in New York. It appeared around the 1970s. At that time in New York City, the economy was definitely not at its best, and that was because of the manufacturing industry that was pretty much collapsing, and that was also because of the construction of the Cross Bronx Expressway, which was a very, very costly construction project at that time. So as the conditions of the neighborhoods that were mostly populated by immigrants were getting worse and worse because of the poor economic situation, the white middle class people that lived there were actually able to move somewhere else in order to escape the poverty, the violence, the gangs, and overall just the rising crime. Since some white middle class people actually left those neighborhoods, the neighborhoods were left with mostly immigrants. And because of the poor economic situation, many businesses closed their doors one after the other. And therefore, of course, there were a lot less job opportunities, and that led to more poverty. And eventually, many sources of entertainment disappeared. And so that meant that the youth in these urban neighborhoods, they needed to find themselves new ways to entertain and express themselves, of course. Now it's time for a small break to remind you guys that today's podcast was brought to you by Nike, where you may buy your hip-hop dancing apparel in their new collection that is available in all stores now. I repeat, people, it's available in all stores now. I actually found myself a wonderful new pair of shoes and a jacket, so go get yours! Alright, so let's jump back into the history of hip-hop. So the youth in these poor urban neighborhoods, as I just said before, they needed to find themselves new ways to entertain and express themselves. And that's when abandoned buildings and parking lots became the perfect designated place to have many block parties. And that is where the four main components, as we called them earlier, the four main pillars of hip-hop culture are born. So just a little reminder, they were DJing, MCing, b-boying, and graffiti, and that's where they all came to existence. This new hip-hop movement and culture was definitely a way to evacuate people's anger and to deal with violence in those poor neighborhoods that were full of crime at that time. And then hip-hop continued evolving in the hands of numerous hip-hop pioneers, just like DJ Kool Herc and Afrika Bambaataa. And you've probably noticed, hip-hop is still evolving to this day. And hip-hop is actually the story of how a small youth movement of African Americans and Puerto Ricans immigrants in poor Bronx neighborhoods created a worldwide culture that influences people daily nowadays. Today, hip-hop culture has evolved already into so many new directions, but yet the four founding pillars of hip-hop remain. So that was all for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so very much for taking the time to listen, and I hope to have you with me next time on Dance for Love, when we will talk about different dancing tips and tricks from my personal dancer experiences. Stay safe, and I hope that the rest of your day goes as smoothly as Michael Jackson moonwalking across the stage. Bye!